can you show me how to fly? How do you fly? How do you fly? Like this. You can fly. Yeah, fly. So are we ready? Okay, let's ready, steady, go. Let's fly, 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 and stop.
The average child in America spends over 7 hours a day in free time playing and watching TV. However, 218 million children today are not as lucky. They work as child laborers, and an estimated 120 million are engaged in hazardous work. The International Labor Organization, a United Nations agency, has attempted to address the concerns surrounding child labor.
Day, all around the world, millions of children go to work instead of going to school. 218 million of them, to be specific, or 1 in every 7 children worldwide. That staggering statistic is from a new report by the International Labour Organization, released as the United Nations marks its day against child labour.
Such large numbers of children working in hazardous work. So we produced this report to provide some clarity and some understanding. What are we talking about when we speak of children in hazardous work? The report sets out a number of sectors. So for example, we know that there are many children working in areas such as crop agriculture, fishing, construction, quarrying, manufacturing. We even take a look at those working on the street, the so-called street children, and those in the informal activities. And we specify those different risks associated with those activities and the health consequences.
According to corporate America, nothing symbolizes love and commitment more than chocolate. So the U.S. imports about 21% of the world's chocolate, and the average American eats over 11 pounds of it per year. This hardly comes as a surprise, considering how oversized candy bars are stuffed in every vending machine and store counter across America. But you might be surprised to learn that nearly every time you take a bite of that delicious sweetness, you have the hands of a child slave to thank.
Cocoa beans are Ghana's biggest cash crop, but it's a bittersweet harvest because of the common use of child labor. Ghana's Gold Coast, as it used to be known, was once the center of West Africa's slave trade. In some ways, the practice continues.
Despite the International Labor Organization's attempts to eradicate child labor, it is impossible due to the demand of companies and the motivation for companies to keep their labor costs low. Unfortunately, it isn't just chocolate that may be made at the hands of a child slave. Everyday products that we use, such as our electronics and clothing, also come from child labor. Contrary to popular opinion, some say the International Labor Organization's worldwide ban on child labor, which is also supported by 151 countries, could deprive families of money that might otherwise be used to pay for children's food and education. Child labor is pervasive for the simple reason that impoverished households who cannot meet their basic needs may depend on the income of their children for survival. In many cases, these families cannot afford the cost of education for their children. Even when schooling is free, studies have shown that parents incur other direct costs such as activity fees, uniforms, paper and pens, textbooks, transport, lunches, and other costs, which often result in the exclusion of poor children from school. By accepting that child labor will prevail, the cycle of poverty in these countries continues. There is a correlation between where there is prevalent poverty and where child labor exists today. The International Labor Organization currently has a manual for companies to provide them with checkpoints on how to eliminate child labor. The manual outlines various checkpoints for companies as they are in direct contact with child laborers. Taking immediate action, for example banning the hire of underage workers, may reduce the problem of child laborers but not remove it. Companies share the responsibility of bringing child labor to an end and need to encourage governments and donors to provide services and policy changes to help them do this. These service and policy changes include decreasing the cost of schooling, providing transitional schools for children who have fallen behind, offering vocational training programs for older children, organizing credit and other income-generating activities for parents and family members of legal working age, and encouraging microfinance and skill training for parents. In order to break this cycle of poverty, other issues need to be addressed, such as the access to education, debt, corruption within regulations, employment opportunities in developing nations, and holding companies accountable for their lack of corporate social responsibility. Only then will the lives of these children be elevated from working in fields and in hazardous conditions to learning how to read and write in school.